Maybe a glitch of the technological glitch. That's why. Sorry for
Ma'am, this is
the
a problem solving step on break.
Sir, I think I will end in another 10 minutes and then you can have a 10-minute break before the next session starts. Let me just share, yeah, 1 second. Sorry, I was taking you through the different decision making steps and yeah, weight allocation based on the priority weights are allocated and then the alternatives are developed. It could be about the mode of transportation, route of transportation, and then these alternatives are evaluated again with respect to cost and time efficiency. That is what is very important now. And then finally, the best alternatives are selected. So these are the steps in rational decision making. But do we actually, take decisions this rationally for any problem that we encounter? We know that there could be alternatives, but do we sit and develop all those alternatives and yeah. Dr. Pramila. Yeah, why is it? Can you please mute your? Okay. So let's move on. Yeah, so I was talking about whether we actually make decisions, always make the decisions rationally. So let's come back to organizational decisions. Now, in organization decisions, we hear something called as bounded rationality. What is bounded rationality? This is where the individuals make decisions by constructing simple models that extract the essential features from the problems without capturing all the complexity. So they have their own boundaries based on which they elucidate the problem and they say, okay, now in the statement A, B, C, these are the major aspects that we have to look at, and that is what we need to address. So they simplify the problem. So in the problem identification, what happens in problem identification is they look at attention catching high profile problems. So visibility is more important, is over visibility over the importance of problem. That means which of the available issues is has to be addressed immediately. So that is what has to be looked at. And then desire to solve problems is another criteria based on which people will try to identify which problem has to be addressed fast. And then one more factor that will affect is self-interest. That means if the problem concerns the decision maker, definitely it becomes a priority, and then it has to be addressed on priority. And then coming to alternative development, that means developing the alternatives to address the problem. So it's not that we talked about maximizing the outcome, but in normal circumstances in the organizational context, it need not necessarily be a maximizing solution. It could be a satisfying solution. That means seeking the first alternative that solves the problem, which may not give them the maximum output, maximum benefit, but it will address the problem at hand and it may address it immediately. And then engaging in incremental rather than unique problem solving through successive limited comparison of alternatives to the current alternative in effect. That means, let's say if you have a set of 10 alternatives which you can apply to the existing problem, which can be a solution to the identified problem. Now these alternatives will be evaluated. Incrementally they will be evaluated. If they freeze on, let's say alternative C, they will again compare it with A, B and the other 7 alternatives which are there, other 6 alternatives that are there, and see incrementally whether the selected option C is better than the other available options. So that is only to justify the decision that has been that is being taken. So that is from the organizational context. Then again, looking at few common biases and errors, there's an overconfidence bias, which is nothing but believing too much in your own ability to make good decisions. So which what happens is, if you're overconfident, you may not even take advice from others, you may not seek opinion from others, or consult people to understand whether the decision that you're making is the right one, will it yield the right results or not. So that is what is meant by overconfidence bias. And then, so all these biases also picture and come into play when we are making decisions. When decisions are being made, they are also subject to these biases. Now, anchoring bias talks about using the early first received information as a basis for making subsequent judgments. So whatever information you receive first about a situation or an issue or an event, you build your judgments based on that first received information. So that is what is mentioned as the anchoring bias. And then the confirmation bias is using only the facts that support our decision. So, if I have to relate it using the facts that support our decision, let's say, for example, in the discussion that we had, when I asked you which vaccination have you opted for, and you said there was no choice, it was whatever was available or whatever was being administered, we had to take that only. So you were using the facts to support the decision, and the decision also was guided because we didn't have a choice, much of a choice there. And then hindsight bias, this talks about looking back once the outcome has occurred. That means after the result has been achieved, and believing that you accurately predicted the outcome of an event. So you think that, okay, see, this is exactly what I thought will happen, and that's why I chose this course of action. So that is what is termed as the hindsight bias. So the examples for these biases. Let's say if I have to talk about investing. If you are investing into stock market on regular basis, then based on your own observation of the stock price movements, you may have invested or divested in a particular stock. That means you must have bought shares of a company or sold the shares of another company. So, but then if you have not, consulted or discussed it with another colleague, maybe who's an employee or who happens to be knowing something about the stock market, and if he has a different opinion, maybe you would have benefited if you had consulted him. But if without any consulting, if you have made a decision and you've sold off a stock thinking that the price will fall, but eventually the price has risen, then that will be an example of an overconfidence bias. And similarly, whatever stock you bought, if the price has increased like anything, then you say that, see, I knew before that it is anyway going to rise, and that's the reason why I bought this stock 5 years back or a couple of years back. So that is how you can relate to these biases. But the examples that I gave are from the investment context, but the biases also hold good in other contexts. Whether it's an office meeting or a decision which is being made, a personal decision that is being made, these biases exist everywhere. They are not subject to only organizations. They are for individuals. We as people are affected by these biases, different biases. So only if you are aware of what bias you are affected with, you will try to address it or control it. Otherwise, these biases will figure in your decisions, any decisions that you make. Yeah, organizational constraints on decision makers. The performance evaluation in the organization, evaluation criteria influence the choice of actions. When people are trying to evaluate the performance and give also give you the related rewards, there again there are subjective evaluations that happen. Even if it's an objective evaluation on paper, again subjectivity comes into picture the moment there are two people involved. And then reward systems, decision makers make action choices that are favored by the organization. So if you are in a decision making position, now you cannot ignore the fact that what is the organization aiming to do, or what is the goal that it's trying to achieve. And by and large, all your decisions will have to adhere, will have to be aligned to those larger goals of the organization. Even if you feel otherwise, if you think that this is not the right move at this point of time, but then based on what the leadership is hinting to you, you will have to make your decisions in alignment. Then formal regulations, organizational rules and policies limit the alternative choices of decision makers. So if I have to give an example here, like those who are working in the government organizations, one rule is that you will have to make any purchases from the GEM portal, the government e-market portal, whatever it be, whatever item it is, right from paper to a big machine, all our purchases or procurement has to happen over the GEM portal. And then there are we don't have much choice there, and if it is beyond a certain amount, again you need an approval from a designated person, and only after approval you will be able to, again you will have to float that also on the GEM portal. So because of the rules and policies, there's not much choice which is left with the decision makers. And recently, I think there was one new amendment made to a GFR rule, that is General Financial Rule, which said that this is with respect to medical devices. Now, medical devices, I'm sure all of you must be aware of. 1 second. Right from the thermometer that we use at home, nowadays oximeters have become home devices, home medical devices, which was not the case earlier. The thermometer, oximeter, or even the BP checkup apparatus that is available to the 2D echo that you get done in a diagnostic center. All these are examples of medical devices. So one GFR rule that was recently I don't know that was recently proposed or floated was that to buy any equipment above 5 lakh rupees, they will the respective organization, if it's a college or an institute under the government setup, they will have to seek the approval of the secretary of that respective department, which was very baffling. But that is the rule that the policy makers have brought into picture. And there was a debate about that. People said medical devices are the manufacturing is as such not very not in a large scale in India as of now. It's coming up now, but right now, if somebody wants to set up, have a setup with medical devices, or launch something on the medical devices platform, he will not have any. There are no vendors available here. And when he is importing something from outside, definitely the cost will be much more than 5 lakhs, which has been the limit, which has been put as a limit as per that GFR. So that is an example of an organizational rule or a policy that is limiting the alternative choices of the decision makers. So every time they have to place an order to get to get a particular machine or an apparatus, even if it's for educational purposes, but if it is not being made indigenously, they don't have a choice than to import it from outside. And then, as we are all aware, the cost will definitely be more than than 5 lakhs. So they will have to seek the approval of the highest authority in that line of activity. And then system imposed time constraints. Organizations require decisions by specific deadlines. So this is something which we are all aware of. There are deadlines set, and then results have to be given by such deadlines. Maybe it's simpler if we talk in terms of the exams that have to be conducted semester-wise, or the annual exams, which went for a toss in the last year. But again, they're being streamlined, and they're being put in line now. Then historical precedents, past decisions influence the current decisions. This is the case, yes. If whatever has been done in the past, they will follow the same trend. If a change has to be made to that decision making process or the decision itself. It could be in terms of changing a vendor or changing the instrument or changing the consumable that you're going to buy. All that will again have to go through the approval process. So, I mean, all these again will depend on the decision maker's perceptions and his organization's policies and rules, and then how he needs to align his decisions with the organization policies and the set rules, so that all the decisions made are in tandem with whatever is required to be done from or whatever is the output that is expected from that particular organization. So that comes with that. I think I have come to the end of my presentation. Yeah, any questions that you have or any suggestions or anything that you would want to share, you're welcome to do that.
Madam, my name is Sandeep Shivane. I'm audible, madam. I'm calling from Hyderabad. I'm speaking from Hyderabad.
Yes,
I'm audible.
Yeah, you are audible.
Yes, good morning, madam. I'm really happy with your presentation. I'm really, you've put a lot of very good inputs for our understanding. I would like to just get one clarification regarding the most important step in the steps of decision making.
Yes,
Is it many times what happens is there are certain happenings in the market. For example, now the organization could face a depletion in its sale, a decrease in its sale, but
Yes.
decrease in the sales could be for various reasons. So the
Yes.
organization is just seeing the symptoms. It is not it is not probably diagnosing the exact reason for it. So
Right,
the may end up just by saying that the sale is decreasing. That's the biggest problem. But why
Right.
is it decreasing? I mean, is
Yeah.
it because the change in the customers' perceptions or the needs, or is it because of there are certain active competitors getting very aggressive in the market? There could be
Yes.
several.
Right,
Those
sir,
that
right.
is problem. So many a times, what happens is the organization may end up just by reading out the symptoms.
Yes.
And do you suggest that at this point of time, the organization should conduct some exploratory research to find out why exactly that is happening? Why exactly that symptom is appearing in the market?
Definitely, so that is how it has to be done. A market research can be undertaken. Maybe the dealers can be asked which other product which is similar to the organization's product is moving fast now that their the product is not being sold. And then what is the reason? It could be a price differential, it could be a quality differential, it could be a package differential also sometimes. The packaging also will matter, or it could be if it comes to the pharmacy, if it comes to the the prescription drugs, then the dealer has nothing to say. It is the doctor's prescription that matters a lot there. So it differs for FMCG goods and the pharma products. Definitely, there has to be a survey can be conducted and to understand if it's an FMCG good, the customer's perceptions will definitely have a bearing on the sales. Perception, the customer perception will again depend on, as I said, the pricing, the quality, the features that are available in the product, whether that is what he is looking for, or he was promised something and he was being delivered something, or the after sales after sales service that is being offered by the company. All these could be few factors that need to be investigated, and definitely competitors and their pricing.
But madam, do you agree that the first step is the most important step, because well-begun?
Yes. Yeah, yes. That is very important. Defining and identifying the problem, the core issue is what is very important, because otherwise you identify a wrong problem and then you work all those steps and you execute the other steps. It doesn't resolve anything at all, and the problem will still persist and remain. So problem identification is the primary step, sir. That is the first step and a very important step.
Should the last step in the entire array of steps, should it be evaluation, or sort of something like some feedback, something like that? The last step. I mean, if the organization is not able to achieve, not able to solve the decision taking, is not able to solve the problem, should the organization come back to the previous step?
They will have to go back to the drawing board again if that means that the identification itself has been wrong and hence the result is not to be seen. So they will have to go back to the basic, their drawing board again and identify what went wrong, what was wrongly identified and then trying to be addressed. That will come under control mechanism, sir. It's like you plan something, you execute it, and then if the achievement is not as expected, then again you revert back and see where things went wrong, whether your implementation was wrong or the plan itself was wrong or the basis itself was wrong. So it has to be revisited. Yes.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that question. Thank you so much. So I thank all the participants. Please hang in here because in another 10 minutes, the next session speaker will be joining us, Dr. Vartika. You may mute your audio and mute video, but please join back at 11 sharp. It's 10:52, yeah, maybe 11:05. We will start the next session. I hope you all have got the agenda, right? I have emailed the agenda to all of you.
Yes, ma'am, we got it.
Yes. So please follow the schedule because I still get messages at 10 o'clock whether the first session has started when we already started at 9 o'clock. So I request all of you to join on time and be available and attend all the sessions. These are for your own benefit. And yeah, thank you for such a good participation in the session. So let's connect back at 11:05 again or 11 o'clock again. I will introduce the next speaker and then the session will start. Thank you so much for all your support. Yeah.